Okay, everyone, I'm going to show you another way to color your overlapping bottles or shapes or whatever it is that you're doing in using primary and secondary colors, and showing how when two primary colors overlap, they create a secondary color, or when they mix together. In this case, all our bottles are going to be primary colors. And where the section that they overlap, they will create the secondary colors. I wanted to show you another option instead of just coloring it in, which you can do, and you can use both primary and secondary color markers, and if necessary, you can mix in a tertiary color if you so choose by mixing a primary and secondary color together. But I wanted to show you a different way we can do that other than just filling it in with marker or pencil crayon or whatever. This technique is basically using Crayola markers, and it has to be washable, the ultra clean washable, because washable markers are water-based, and they're heavily water-based, which means that they will dilute easy, which means they can be used kind of like watercolor paint. So for this technique, I'm going to show you how. I'm going to start here with my red, and I'm just going to use the flat edge and fill in just on the around the outside. And even when I'm coloring in my markers, I usually start around the outside and then overlap, and then not overlap, and then start on the outside and then fill in the rest. That way I try and do my best work that way. And you can see here, I'm just going around the outside here. And I'm going to do my next bottle, and I'm going to leave that section open for now, and I'm going to do red and blue. So I'm going to go around here. I have to be very careful to remember not to go over the other line until I'm ready. And one thing I forgot to mention is always check your markers to make sure that they are working well. Okay, very frustrating when you use a marker and it doesn't work well, kind of like this one, but it'll be fine for this. So now what I want to do is I'm actually going to put down a little bit more of the red. So I'm just kind of leaving some white, and it doesn't have to be neat. This can be messy, because now what we're going to do is we're going to take a paintbrush. We'll have either some paper towel, tissue, whatever, and a little container of water, just a little bit of water. You don't need a lot. We're going to dip our paintbrush in the water, kind of tap it so it's not too wet. And remember, we're using watercolor paper. So I'm going to now start to pull in the color. We don't want to use too much water because we don't want to oversaturate our paper and make it too bubbly. But you can see how I'm pulling in the color all over, just with that little bit of water. And that seemed to do the trick, and that was enough. Now that's really nice like that, to show how it works like a watercolor paint. So it gives you that kind of tonal, it's not perfect, it's a little bit lighter and darker, but it's lovely. Next, I'm gonna clean my brush, gently go like that, tap it off in the water, both sides, and I use my towel just to make sure that there's no color. And then I'll pick up, like I did before, get a little water, tap it. You don't need so much. And I'm going to do the same with the blue. And you see, I don't need to add much more water than that. But I'm using all the blue around. I'm pulling all that color that I put down in. I'm not just going around the edges, the little bit of edges. I'm going all the way to the back here and bringing all that color that I put down before into the center. Now, maybe this blue wasn't the best marker. It's not bad at all. It's fine. It's working out okay. And that's really nice. And next one I'm going to do is you're going to say, Mrs. Shapiro, you can go around it and do the purple if you want, but which would look nice too. And I'm going to do it for this one. And you can wait till it's dry, which I'm not doing because we don't want it to bleed in just yet onto the other side because it's wet. But now I'm going to do that there, same thing, and just a little bit of water, and very little here because it's a small space. And I can pull that in and I can do that like that. Now that looks really neat. I like it. It has that watercolor effect, which is really, really interesting. But for the third bottle, sorry, not the second bottle, I'm going to use yellow here, and I'm going to try a different technique. So I'm going to go around the same way. Okay, remember, just along the outside, I did the same thing to the yellow. And I'm going to, what I'm going to do here for this one, I'm going to do a thin line of blue here. And I'm kind of going to make my own colors. So I did a thin line of blue, because when blue and yellow mix, they get. And now I'm going to take the yellow. I'm going to do a little more yellow. And you can see it's already starting to mix. But when that happens, I actually take my tissue and just wipe that off. And I'm going to do the same thing now. A little bit of paint. And I'm going to mix those two colors together and see what happens here. And there you go. You have green. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it the other way and just use the green, but it's another way of showing primary colors making secondary colors. And now I'm going to carefully rinse my brush because I don't want any green on that yellow. So there we go, and I'm just going to finish this up. And for these smaller sections here, they're quite small. You really don't need a lot of water. So you have to really make sure that you shake off a lot of that water and mix it around. Maybe the orange is not coming through as good as I'd like, but you know what we can do after that? It is a little bit orangey. When it dries, you can go over it with orange. I'm going to just go like this carefully. I don't want you to do this because I don't want you to ruin your work. And I flip that over. But I'm going to just do this method for the orange. Actually, my orange is yellow. There's my orange. And that works better. And I can still give it a little bit of water just to blend it in, which I think looks better. And for the last one, we're going to try a tertiary color. And we're going to mix purple with red because they are a neighbor on the color wheel. Remember, you cannot use a primary and secondary that are opposite or across. They actually have to be corner. There has to be one color just between them, and then it'll work. So you could do red and purple. You could do blue and green. You could do yellow and orange. Okay, purple. You don't want to brush too hard to start to kind of make the paper, you don't want to, if you move it around too much, the brush, then the paper will start to kind of buckle, or maybe you'll get a hole off of it or something like that. You don't want to rub it around too much. But here we have a nice purpley color. That looks really good. I like that. And now I'm going to go in. I don't have to really clean my brush that well because I just did purple and I'm mixing the purple and the red. And remember, just a little bit of water for a small spot. And here we go. Let's see. So we're making a tertiary and a secondary color out of secondary and primary to make red and purple. Mix red, purple. And it's starting to get a little bit of the paper bubble in here, but that's okay. We're going to mix this nicely And they have a beautiful, beautiful color there. And I like that I can kind of take those little pieces off. And that looks really nice. I like the way that looks. And there you go. Primary, secondary, primary, secondary, primary, secondary, primary, tertiary, secondary.